Rekkid Talk, and no, I'm not looking through Randy Williams records this week. I'm ranking the albums. I'm ranking the albums of the Chicago alternative band, highly underrated in my opinion, Local H. They're lifers. And so, if you don't know about Local H, they've been a two-piece band. They've been around since the early 90s, started putting out albums in 1995. They're best known for a song called Bound for the Floor, which came out in 1996. It features the word, you just don't get it, they keep it copacetic, and you learn to accept it, and you go. So they're a two-piece band. They were two-piece before the White Stripes and the Black Keys made being a two-piece cool. The constant is Scott Lucas. He's the leader of the band, lead singer. Plays guitar and bass at the same time with an unusually strong guitar and a rather wide assortment of pedals. And he has a drummer. He's been through a few different drummers over the years. So they have 9 full-length studio albums that I'll be ranking here. They've had a couple live albums. They've had some mixtape cover albums, a few EPs. Those are not getting ranked today. Scott Lucas has a side project called Scott Lewis and the Married Men. I actually don't have any of that. So let's get into it. We're going to start off with my number 9. Number 9, the bottom, is going to be the debut, Ham Fisted. So this is 1995, so that's Scott on the right. That's the original drummer Joe Daniels on the left. He was around for the first 3 records. A bit of an acrimonious breakup. He did come back about 20 years ago briefly, but then left again. And so that the Local H sort of hard rock, hard alternative, fairly long, epic songs is there. The songs aren't quite as catchy and the jams aren't as epic as they're going to get in the future. So Local H is definitely not in the first album as their best album example. You know, those people that come out of the gate, they've got all these great songs that they've been sitting on for years, and then when it comes time to make the second album, it's not so good. This didn't happen to them. My number 8, and basically 8 through 5 are all pretty much very equal. They're kind of on a tier. Same thing's going to be true with 1 through 4. It's very hard to read, but this is Local H. Hallelujah, I'm a Bum. This came out in 2012. They've done some concept albums over the years. This is sort of a concept of sort of what it's like living on a really cold day in Chicago. So there's the L and a bunch of snow, and it's cold. Even at number 8, I'm not going to say it's a dud. There's not really anything I would say is like a top 10, top tier Local H song. It's a pretty long album. It's got 17 tracks. I think that's the most they ever had on an album. A lot of decent songs, no real bangers on there. Number 11, Here Comes Old Laptop, is pretty good. Number 14, Limit Your Change. Kind of starting a trend of bass-ackwards album sequencing. Number 7 is going to be from 1998. You can see I have a promo version. This is called Pack Up the Cats. So this was the second of their major label albums that came out on Island. I believe that this was the last album with original drummer Joe Daniels. He got replaced by Brian Sinclair from Triple Fast Action, another underrated Chicago alternative band. Eventually he left as well, and a guy named Ryan Harding is the current. This very common thing on Local H is me liking the last half of the album better than the first half of the album. That was true on the previous one as well. Scott's song sequencing can be a little bit weird. This is probably, it's got some mellower stuff on it by Local H standards. She Hates My Job. All the Kids Are Right. Number 14, the song Deep Cut. 14 to 15 is a really great song. The best one on here. It's the penultimate song, so if I ever do 5 records, 5 minutes about penultimate songs, maybe we'll put that one on there. All right. Number 6, and when you've been seeing me do my monthly series, 12 Angry Months has been featured because sort of the concept of this album is there's a song for every month, and it's about sort of a failed relationship. The April song, White Belt Boys, there's this lyric, hope you have a lonely life. Um, the May song, The Summer of Boats, it almost sounded like a pedal steel guitar, but it was actually like a cheap MIDI keyboard. Uh, August, my birthday month, has a song called Jesus Christ, Did You See the Size of That Sperm Whale? I don't think anyone else has ever written a song called that. Um, the November song Blur is pretty awesome, and I actually started my monthly series in November. So this is again Scott burying his best songs at the end of the disc. Number 5 is the real rarity in their catalog. Whatever Happened to PJ Souls? Yes, PJ Souls, the actress from the late 70s. And so this came out in 2004. I paid $40 to get this used. It's rare. It almost never comes up on Discogs. It's probably never going to get reissued because it was like the first record. I think it might have been the first and only record that ever came out on this label called Studio E Records. So this was after the Island major label days. The label went out almost immediately, and the rights to this record seemed to be in sort of a permanent state of purgatory legal limbo. It's another sort of concept album. It's sort of a concept album about failure because there was a lot of bitterness about not being part of the record industry anymore. California Songs is something they will play live a lot. Heavy Metal Bake Sale. There's a song about PJ Souls, of course. All right, where are we at? Okay, we're now to number 4. So I think there's a breaking point. The top 4 are all really good and probably on different days could be ranked in different orders. I'm going to start getting my vinyl versions out. So this is my number 4, which is called Hey Killer, which came out in 2015. Sort of a bubblegum pink vinyl. G&P Records. So the G is Gabe Rodriguez, who's sort of a long-time sort of roadie friend. He co-hosts the Lifers podcast with Scott Lucas, something you should look up. They talk, basically the gimmick is they talked to people that are sort of like lifelong alternative rockers. And so Scott did put some great songs at the start. The first sides of this is pretty cool. Last picture show in Zion. They're from Zion, Illinois, which is kind of like right on the border with Wisconsin. And so they keep the pedal to the metal with songs like City of Knives and Freshly Fucked and Leon and the Game of Skin to start the second side. So this is a pretty damn good album. But they get even better. My number 3, and I missed this when this was reissued about 6 or 7 years ago. As Good as Dead. This is their second record that came out on Island, 1996. This is certainly their top seller. This is the one that has that number 3, Bound for the Floor, the Copacetic song, High Flying MF, number 2, Eddie Vedder, number 8. Those are all probably some of their most well-known songs. And what else did I have to say about it? And so, honestly, if this had come up probably 2 or 3 years before, I think these guys would have made it even bigger than they did. Even by 1996, we were starting to edge away from alternative music being cool. There's Scott and the original drummer Joe again. And so, what do I think's better than it? Well, number 2, and some days you might get me to say this is number 1, Local H, Here Comes the Zoo from 2002. I have a very recent reissue of this. So you got Ryan St. Clair on drums and Scott Lucas on the usual. You've got some guests on here, Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age, Jerry Only from the Misfits, probably the most notable of the guests on this particular album. And again, this one, so it's spread out on the 3 sides, and then the 4th side are some alternative mixes of songs. Hands on the Bible, which is the very first song. So going against the best songs at the end, I think that's the best local H song ever. Absolute banger. Too bad this came out in 2002 when literally nobody cared about this. Keep Your Girlfriend Away From Me, side number 2 on side B. That's a great song. What Would You Have Me Do, featuring the full cast, is like a over 20-minute song, and it feels much shorter than that. It's not like a Iron Maiden 20-minute song that's actually only 8 minutes long. But my favorite album is their most recent album, Lifers 2020. And so this is double album. So we lead off with their lead single, Patrick Bateman. You've got a pretty cool, more poppy song, Winter Western, with Juliana Hatfield. There's your Juliana Hatfield input for the day. She's been a guest on the podcast a couple times as well. And so apparently they were friends from back in the day. Beyond the Valley of Snakes, 7 minutes long, first of the 2 songs on side B. Absolute fucking monster killer song and a scary ass video. Defiance, Surrender, over 10 minutes long. Innocence, Farah. Yeah, this is great. So there's not too many examples out there of bands who've been around for close to 30 years where you can say their most recent record is the best record. But that's true about these guys. So this is one of those groups that the next time they put out an album, it could be the best album of their career. Most people from 20, 30, 40 years ago, when they're putting out a new album, you know it's not going to be their best. So I really like Local H. You should check out the podcast called Lifers. And quickly going back through albums 9 through 1. I know we're too long. Sorry, Tommy. Number 9 is the debut Ham Fisted from 1995. Number 8 is Hallelujah, I'm a Bum from 2012. Number 7, Pack Up the Cats from 1998. Number 6, 12 Angry Months from 2008. Number 5, Whatever Happened to PJ Souls from 2004. Number 4, Hey Killer from 2015. Number 3, As Good as Dead from 1996. Number 2, Here Comes the Zoo from 2002. And number 1, Lifers from 2020.